To have you on N2. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Great to be with you.
Congressman, tell me where I'm wrong. They say, we don't know what you're talking about. We're going to laugh about it, $10 billion to Iran. And then the next day, they give it out to the Associated Press. Yes, we're freeing up $10 billion to Iran, which we know funds terror. It seems to make no sense.
Well, first of all, I can understand why they wouldn't want to announce it because it's embarrassing. It never works. Anytime you appease these terrorists supporting countries, we know that Iran is probably the biggest sponsor of terrorism around the world. They do it everywhere from Africa to the Far East to all over Europe and Israel. They're absolutely an evil empire, and I think they need to be confronted head on.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like the Biden administration is doing that. There, in fairness, have been a handful of airstrikes here and there, but we've seen, as I mentioned a moment ago, U.S. military assets, whether it's bases, it's actual troops, have been hit, and it looked like we might have lost you. Do you still hear me, Congressman?
I do.
Okay, there you are. We lost your picture, but you're back. There you are. Skype can do that sometimes. These military assets overseas, particularly in the Mideast, have been hit, dozens and dozens of times, 70, 80, 90. The Pentagon keeps dribbling it out. And Biden will do an airstrike here or there. But it doesn't seem to me like we're really standing up to Iran. What's your thought?
Well, I think Biden doesn't stand up to anybody. I don't care if it's China, Iran. They did a horrible job in Afghanistan. I'm an Afghan veteran, and I tell you, the way that they handled that was probably the worst possible way you can handle any foreign diplomacy. It makes me sick to my stomach. Like, we spent 20 years there, $2 trillion, 2,462 lives to give it back to the same evil bastards who are now training 27 terrorist bases in their country. Biden never handles any foreign policy correctly. He comes across as weak, inept, uneducated. He cannot deal. He cannot communicate any sort of foreign policy whatsoever, no, whether it be in Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, you name it. This guy is no good for foreign policy whatsoever.
Well, thank you for your service in Afghanistan. I mentioned that last hour because we were talking about his weakness around the world. And I mentioned that it really kind of kicked off 2 summers ago, as you just referred. It was the tragic loss of life, the 13 service members, of course, first and foremost. But we also, as Donald Trump talks about on the campaign trail all the time, we left behind billions of dollars in weapons. These terrorists that you're talking about could be using those weapons against us. There have been reports that maybe those weapons have been used in the Mideast, used in Ukraine. They're being sold on the black market, no doubt. What's your thoughts on that? Because as we see these conflicts spread right now, that was a pivotal moment in Afghanistan.
Yeah, we're actually investigating that. We just had hearings. I was talking to some folks about that, looking where these M4A1 carbines came from. Obviously, they have advanced NVG, which night vision capability is one of the things that keep our special operators safe. When you're able to disseminate that all over the world, it puts our troops in jeopardy. It can literally kill some of the best and brightest minds in the military. It's unforgivable. What we did in Afghanistan is going to lead to a cascade of failures all across the world, not only in policy, but also in military deaths, as these people are better and better supplied from our own military stores. Tragic.
Tragic indeed. We talked about the stakes with Iran. Let's shift to China, which you mentioned a moment ago. We're going to go live in a few minutes to President Biden. He's in San Francisco, had this one-day summit with President Xi of China. Let's start with the fact that he seems to be compromised. You and your colleagues have been investigating. These subpoenas have gone out. I mean, Joe Biden, we played a clip last hour. He looked the American people in the eye in the 2020 debates and said, not just China, he said he never got a penny from any foreign country when he was a senator, vice president, former vice president. And yet, here he is. He got it. I mean, James Comer's gotten the checks. The money that started with a Chinese energy company wind up as a loan repayment or something to Joe Biden. It went into his bank account, sir.
Yeah, when your son has a job he doesn't deserve and money keeps on rolling over in tens of thousands of dollars over and over again, not just coincidentally, but immediately timed every time a Chinese organization gives money to his family, and all of a sudden it runs into the big guys' account, there is a significant amount of smoke. There's going to be fire. I hope he gets impeached. I hope he gets put in jail, quite frankly.
No doubt. Where did you vote last night on this continuing resolution? There's a lot of division, as you know, in your party tonight about Speaker Johnson's first big move, really. I get the pressure to keep the government open, but there's a lot of frustration that there was no real spending cuts, and Democrats like Chuck Schumer seem to love this budget.
Yeah, that's, it's a bad deal when the Democrats are united behind it, when there's more Democrats voting for it than Republicans. I voted against it I talked to Mike Johnson before, who I have great respect for, by the way. I think he is a staunch conservative. I think this was his first big challenge, and he's just trying to keep the government open right now. He didn't want to start off with shutting down the government, which would put us in a precarious position. But my thought was, let's get something. Let's pass something that had HR2, which we had already passed. Let's secure the southern border, for example, which even Democrats in sanctuary cities want to secure the southern border. Let's go after that, put the pressure back on the Senate, and dare them to shut down the government when we ask for something that the people want, that we've already passed. That's all I ask for. Give me REINS Act. Let's rein in executive privilege and bureaucracies who are spending money faster than we can save it. Give me something. That's all I was asking for.
Or you could have picked the IRS agents. Maybe not all 87,000, but they started negotiating with about 15,000 of them being cut to pay for some of the increases in spending, and those pay-fors are no longer there. And this is the frustration. People, as you know, watching us tonight think it's a uniparty. It's not Democrats versus Republicans. We saw this with the vote on Mayorkas a couple nights ago, where 8 of your colleagues in the House Republicans, decided to vote with the Democrats and spare Mayorkas impeachment.
Well, I hope they do due process on Mayorkas. I hope he does get prosecuted, because there's a lot there. He's lied out and out to Congress. He's not doing his job. He's allowing a sovereign nation to be invaded. 1.7 million getaways with this kind of terrorist activity around the world. We are putting ourselves in a very precarious position where Americans could die en masse, and it's going to be on his head.
Speaking of precarious positions, Tim Burchett found himself there, it sounds like. I started with the substance. I don't want to just do the gossip and the thing that everybody's talking about, but I got to ask you about it. Here's a clip. Tim Burchett was on our morning show on Newsmax Cable this morning. Here's how he described the encounter with Kevin McCarthy.
Somebody hit me in the back, and I kind of fell forward, and I turned, and of course it was, Kevin McCarthy walking down the hall behind me, and he shoved me or elbowed me in the back, and then I took off after him just to kind of confront him about it. He shouldn't get by with that. And of course, he denied it.
He denied it. I see you smiling. What's the chatter among your colleagues, sir?
Well, I'm a rugby guy, and I'm a Marine, so I had to give Tim a little bit of a hard time. I said, first of all, I'm an ER doctor. You want me to check you out, make sure there's no bruising? Asked him if he had some blood in his urine and if he needed dialysis for his kidneys shutting down. And then I asked him if he was from maybe a northeastern state, because, if he came from a southern state and he told his dad he got hit, the first question I'm going to ask you is, did you hit him back?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to give him a little bit of a hard time. This is a man's game. I mean, if I play basketball, we're going to have a little bit of pushing and shoving. I just don't make a big deal of this. Come on, let's be guys. Let's be men about this. I mean, if he nudges you, nudge him back. Let's have some fun.
Right. And let's move on, because I think there are bigger issues that the country has to deal with, and you highlighted a lot of those.
First world problem. Not even first world problem. Third grade problems.
Third grade problems. Congressman Rich McCormick, I hope you come back to N2. We appreciate you covering a lot of ground with us tonight, sir.
My pleasure.
All right.